And we are on Intellectual Radio, iHeart radio station with, I don't know, I guess we'll call this a Groovy People Plus show. Yeah, and we're with a good friend of mine, Mr. Obi Wordlaw, I've known for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years now.
Yes, at
and
least.
He's lovely.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, you're a good guy.
Thank
this
you.
is the guy that helped me with my golf stroke.
Right,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You did me in on the golf course.
Did I really?
Oh, yeah, right.
No,
But you're natural.
I don't even know how to keep a score. I let everybody else do the score. I do the swinging and they keep the score. But it's a lot of fun. I had no idea how much fun golf could be. And I appreciate what you guys do because your wife is, we're going to talk about what you're into too.
Okay.
But your wife does a lot of stuff with the veterans.
Right. She's doing a veteran village out in Fort Heights.
Mm-hmm.
And that's to house veteran women and their families.
Oh, it's women?
Women and families.
Okay.
So it's 100 families that she's putting out there.
Yeah.
And then she has several programs that will enhance the veterans' activity of daily living.
Right. Yeah.
So
and she's
a very positive lady.
Definitely.
Right. Her name is Doll Smith.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Thank you very much for your participation as well with everything that we do, especially what she does.
Yeah. Well, I thank both of you guys for having a heart and a mindset to want to give back. You're one of the people that don't make it and just run out of,
Right.
You constantly give back. For as long as I've known you guys, you've been giving back. So tell me a little bit about Gero first. This is your company.
Okay. Gero is a medical equipment and supply company. We've been in existence for 30 years now.
Okay.
And what we do is we supply to the Veterans Administration and the Department of Defense. And we do some marketing and things of that sort. Pardon me. And we hire from the community.
Right.
And we do a lot of participation in the community as far as helping youth, young people go to school. Some of the people that normally wouldn't get hired if they was because of some of their challenges just getting out of the institutions, we try to work with them as well. So because we understand in our community, if you have lack of resources, then you also have lack of opportunities. So we have to see they're trying to get black businesses and people of our community to invest in black-owned businesses because we are the only ones that can very definitely hire our own people.
Right, or really want to.
Want to.
Yeah.
And even if any other group didn't have issues with us, still charity begins at home.
True.
So you hire people that look like you. You start with your family first, your children, your nieces and nephews, your community, because you want to make sure everything stays whole in your community. So those are the kind of things that we need to teach to each other. So I'm a voice in the wilderness trying to make that point as well. So I have a lane that I work out of, which I trademarked a phrase that said, follow the money from A to Z. And sometimes people will say, well, we always have a program where we talk about money. And I can stick my chest out and say, but you're not discussing it the way I talk about it.
Okay.
And the way I talk about it is that everything that we touch has more than one component to make money. And because we don't discuss money and where money exists, then people normally don't gravitate to the different variables that relate to money. I jokingly, even though I be serious, I asked the question, how come you don't see black people in the jungle saving gorillas? And people will laugh because some will give me an answer, well, I don't do that because who wants to be in the jungle with gorillas? But that's a $4 to $8 billion industry. And that's healthcare, and that's, zoology, you name it. So we got to recognize that there's money as well.
Yeah.
So, but my company kind of gravitating away from that because I am concerned about keeping existing businesses, and that is we have a campaign where we're trying to get people to donate to black-owned businesses, and what we're saying is that not because of the actual item, but because of the concept.
Right.
We're dealing with where we give you out a button if you donate a certain amount, and we give out a T-shirt if you donate a certain amount, and we give out a button, a T-shirt, and a mug. that
Got it.
says solution, follow the money from A to Z. I donate it to a black-owned business.
Okay. Instead of say what?
Instead of saying minority.
Ooh, wow, that's big. I was trying to think of a trademark, a name brand, because that's what we represent when we put that on. Why not represent the community instead?
Well, that's what you're doing when you
Right.
put that on,
Yeah.
because you have to. When we talk about our children walking around with baggy pants and those kind of things, then if you don't have any resources in the community, I was listening to a program where they was dealing with the Palestinians and the Israelis having their altercations for years and years, and they was talking about the occupation, but also they interviewed one of the Palestinian youth, and they were saying we can go to school, we can come out, we don't have no opportunities, we don't have no jobs, so that's why we're throwing rocks. So now if we're in our community and we don't understand why our kids are throwing rocks, then leaves a lot to be desired on our community, not understanding that if you don't have no resources, if all the things leave out of your community, then that's what you would get. And this is why I've made every attempt to stay in our community for at least 30 years.
I wish more people had that drive, that mindset.
Well, see, what it
Really
is
different.
those that know better have to teach. And I admire you as well, because you're also very concerned about the community. So you participate in a lot of things related to trying to help us stay aware of what's going on.
Aware above water. At this point, we trying to swim
Hey,
instead of
well,
sink.
see, that's why what the campaign, you also have committed to working with us in our situation where we're talking about we got to figure out how to keep existing businesses in our community. Periodically, I go to places where they have received a certain amount of money to bring resources as far as information. One of the things that is void of those things that they bring to the table is capital. And to give you an example, and I won't mention a particular organization, but if I talk about it, you would pretty much know. But there's several non-for-profit organizations that exist in our community.
Yeah.
They have a program where they teach you how to start your business. They have a program how you should have good accounting systems and all of those kind of things, how to get
Mhm.
certified with the city and the county, all of those
Mhm.
programs. But once they get started, then now how do you get the business? So even when they bring those city, county, and state people out to talk about what they offer, when you go down there, then you're in competition with with the majority of society. You got to get the products from 90% of the time from the majority society. So then, if you survive 5 years, which normally is a big kicker, regardless of what ethnicity you are, then what happens is that now you got to figure out how to sustain yourself. And one
Mhm.
of those processes, which is major, is getting capital.
Okay.
So you and I have to come up with some creative methods in terms of how to get capital so that we can keep our businesses growing. And when they do get beyond 5, 10, and 20 years, then how do they get capital if they run into a problem that is not necessarily something of their own making?
Mhm.
Listen at sometimes people talking about this Donald Trump, how many times he's been bankrupt.
Mhm.
So now, if he's supposed to be that millionaire that he had, that he's
If he's supposed to be the businessman.
professed to be, he is a businessman, because you
Okay.
should be able to use
Regardless, I
those
got that.
tools
Yeah.
that's legally tools to go up and down and still be able to sustain your business.
Yeah.
But if you go bankrupt or have an issue financially in the black community because of our mindset, then which is what the business people got to teach, then we believe that, wow, that's a real bad stigma. But
Mhm.
that's not necessarily so, because we all go through those kind of changes one way or the other.
Yeah.
But you have to have the lending institutions in tune with what you're doing, or they want to make sure your community is thriving. So they join in to help find finances to help you do that, or come up with some method of creativity to help businesses sustain themselves.
Mm.
I jokingly say, when people say that, now if I'm talking too fast,
Nah, you go ahead. Yeah, do your thing. Do your thing.
if people talk about how I don't, you ever watch the cowboy movies?
Back in the day, yeah.
Right, you
Yeah.
see where Jesse James used to rob the banks,
Uh-huh.
and when they had the amnesty for the people that was robbing them, they wind up going to the bank getting a loan. So now, if you can do that, and then when they talking about moving west, coming from other countries to move to develop the United States, then the banks and they set funds and made all kind of vehicles for capital for those farmers and people that homestead to be able to grow their businesses. That back in the 50s and 60s, when the veterans first was coming out of the army or the armed forces, they came up with programs that helped the veterans get housing and the capital, et cetera, et cetera. So
back then, it was a different kind of program. They wanted us to thrive. It kind of feels like it's not like that now.
But see, if I could say this without sounding condescending, you were never the one that they were included. They always wanted to fight. They, like, for instance, now, if you notice, the drug war, you find out that something related to, I think I'm pronouncing it right, Oxycontin or something, where majority of society's kids are taking those prescription drugs. But what they're doing is coming up with programs now to try and help those kids out. But when it was just your children, then there's a design for that. This is why it's not the other person's fault, it's your fault. So when I talk about helping us black businesses grow, I blame the black business person or man or woman that it's my fault that I don't teach you how to do what you need to do.
You're right about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not your fault for not knowing, it's my fault for not putting a program together. I got in a big old dissertation here, in fact, this morning with a minister, and I had another altercation. And when I say that, I don't mean it to the point where we were ready to fisticuff.
I got it.
Right, but we were going back and forth. And I mentioned to them, because I have a questionnaire that I've been putting out, is I asked when they come out with the census report and they talk about how the job market has shrunk down to 5%, then I asked the question, how many jobs do black businesses create? Nobody really seemed to have those statistics. I asked the question, how many black businesses do at least $5 million a year? How many black businesses hire at least 30 employees? So those kind of questions, and when the census report comes out, being slightly redundant, they're not talking about us. So those questions are not to have a fight with us, but to talk about how we should solve those issues, which goes back to financing.
Let me ask you what the guy you were in the conversation with, what did he have to say about that?
What he had to say, one of the things that he did to me was took me back to, I remember when Soft Sheen had these many employees. I remember when Johnson had these many employees. So I held on my finger, okay, 1, 2. I said, but now we're talking about today.
Right.
So why are you taking me back there? And even when you took me back there, they didn't have the consciousness to be able to develop a community. So they were able to thrive in their community.
What I mean, not saying that I agree completely with either side, but when I think about it, what came to mind, because he's a friend of mine, is Full of Products, and how that was a thriving company and just it was growing like crazy. And
that's
there was
one.
a system. I get that.
That's 2.
But
that's 3.
I get that. But it was the system knocked him down. They spread lies about him, and being the type of people that we are, we took that as the gospel. And we started we picketed the man till he.
But see, that's the blacks' business's fault, because when you tell lies about other groups, when they tell lies about each other, as long as they're fighting among each other, it's okay. But when you start jumping in, then they all rally around you to make sure that they keep you together. So the mindset is that regardless of what kind of dispersion comes out against you from other people, that's a process. Money is war.
Yeah.
So anytime you are doing well in any business, give you an example. My company sells to the federal government. There was a time when I could go get an order for $2,500. The company that picks up my product does like $10 billion a year.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't, at one point, they weren't fighting for that money. Now they will go in and ask the same program, that institution that I'm doing business with, for that $2,500. then they can undercut me and sell it for $2,500, $600, and I got to have $2,800 in order to thrive. But because money is war and they want every penny that's in the room, it's not their fault. It's my fault that you and I don't figure out how to play the game. And the way we play the game is to learn how to play money.
Right.
You know?
Looking forward, because I thought about this earlier when you spoke a little bit earlier. Looking forward, money or economics should be something that's taught, like when they recognize that that's a quarter. You know, and that's something that will grow from the age of 2 or 3 into, you know, their.
See, however, that's one aspect. Now, my follow the money from A to Z is not just teach them how to play with the quarter, but also teach them how many places quarters are. So if you were talking, like, for instance, if right now you could bring a group of brothers and sisters in the room, they will get caught up in real estate or things that are openly visual. I was in a meeting here a couple of months ago with a mayor in the suburbs and a couple of other business people, and they were going to build some houses around a lake. So when I walked in the room, the first thing that happened, I told them I was in the medical supply business. Well, the guy said, I don't want to meet Obi. So I said, okay, when you all get ready to start having a dissertation or talking about things that are frivolous, then I want to ask you why not. So when they finished their product, because they were talking about the building, the engineering, et cetera, et cetera. So then I asked him when they finished, I said, why you didn't want to talk to me? He said, I was in the hospital and they spent almost $800,000 on me because I had to do something with my heart. I said, but guess what? 67% of everything that they spent on you came from somebody like me. So now if 67% of a budget of an institution, I might be off a little bit in the numbers, but if you can envision 67% of everything that an institution spends in that arena and look at how many hospitals and institutions that's in the United States and Chicago in your community, and 67% out of a dollar you don't want to talk to me about, you know, something wrong with that picture. That's why I mentioned the gorilla for $8 billion. That's why you can think of this card I just gave you. How many components in this card is about making money? How many brothers do you know? If you talk to anybody, they'll say, okay, the printing. But there's paper, there's the earth.
I got you.
Graphics,
all of that.
The ink.
Got it.
The whole 9 yards. So let's talk about it, because you and I need to discuss this. A friend of mine picks up, got I forget what they call it, but anyway, he go around to different farmers that's got lumber on their farm, and he hauls their lumber to the mill, and they process it. So his son went to college to get a degree in marketing, but he wanted his son to drive the truck like he did. So his son resented that part, so he didn't want to work for his company father. So I asked him, I said, well, why not? What you should have been trying to get him to do the marketing part and get somebody else to do the truck driving, because there's more than one thing in that industry.
In that company, and every company.
In every company that we touch. So these are the things that I discuss primarily when we talk about follow the money from A to Z. So a friend of ours, him and I debate with each other quite a bit. So I got a circle that says bank, every institution in our community, we ought to do business with each other. But you can't come in my place and shop, because I don't sell bulk. I sell in bulk to hospitals. So the kind of business that I need from my community is if you have a sister, brother, aunt, or uncle that happens to work for an institution that's in the purchasing department, that's got some subtle nepotism that they can help me get my door open, you know, then this is where I need my business to come from. So when we talk about trading with each other, then let's encompass everything.
Not always direct. I get that.
So that's another approach that I deal with now.
Now, how many employees does Jero?
We had 30 employees. Right
30.
Now, this is why I use that figure. If you can't hire at least 30 employees, then that means you're not really taking anybody off the street. I had a majority society, or how do you refer to them? Caucasian or somebody?
I say Europeans.
Europeans, okay. This European brother been trading with me, doing business with me for 20 years. What he does is he take 18 to 24-year-old young black men and women, put them in boot camp for 3 or 4 weeks. Then he send them out to the community. So I asked him a question because I got 2 of his employees. They pay for it for a certain period of time, and then they want me to see if I'll hire them. So I have 2 working for me now. What happened is I asked him a question. How many jobs do you place in the black community? He said he placed a lot of black people in the community. I turned around and asked him a question. How many black people do you place in black-owned businesses? He said very few. Most of the people that he placed in the black community is with the other people. We don't hardly have any businesses.
I was just about to say,
Right.
yeah, the numbers.
So if you don't have that conversation with each other, then why, so this, like I said today, I had a conversation with a minister today, and he did the same thing that you did. We had this one Ace company, we had Seaway National Bank, and we had this company, but by and large, they were not. And since I'm a senior citizen, I'm not, this ain't hearsay on my part,
Okay.
because I had businesses since I was 19 years old. So I understand what happened to us in terms of how we didn't pass the torch. I don't mean just pass the torch to your inner circle. I'm talking about coming with a group of us sitting in a room talking about how to control a particular community of ours. We talk about other races coming in from out of the country into our community. What is it that they're doing that sits in their part of the country and say, where should we go to make some money? That means somebody is sitting in this room talking about this, coming up with a process on how to get their money. And another reason I say follow the money from A to Z is because the political situation in their community out of the country and the political situation in our community, that means that they're talking to each other. Like with the trade, fair trade, Obama just doing something with the Asian trade program. Then they're sitting there matching businesses with big businesses. And then they come over here politically and they get protected to do what they're doing, but they're also bringing money over here. So that's a political situation. Because we don't have big businesses understanding the process, then we're not able to maneuver our politicians in a position to make sure that anybody comes over here. Like when the Japanese came over here to build their Nissan plant in Tennessee or one of those southern states, why not come to the west side? So had we had Obi and other major corporations black had the kind of thrust, we could have had that input on, well, put this over here on 16th Street. Or put this
that's
in
where we're
Maywood.
not, we the people.
No, the business people. You got to prop the business people up so that the business people will start having that kind of foresight to bringing wealth back to the community for us to hire our people from the community. Envision, and this is no dispersion on the wino, but envision a wino wanting to have a business. The only problem I got with the wino is the fact that he ain't follow the money from A to Z. He ain't buying the wine from me. And not only is he not buying the wine from me, the bottle is not coming from me. The label that go on the bottle is not coming from me. The wine is not coming from you. Follow what I'm saying? That's a conversation we need to talk about. We was part of a program because periodically I do what I'm doing now, and tell me what I'm going.
No. You go ahead. I need to take notes with you.
Okay. we was in a program where they were talking about 50 years since civil rights movement. So what happened? I'm still on follow the money from A to Z. So what happened? The sister got up and she talked about one of the things related to health care. Then another brother talked about how the recidivism in the prison system. So in each category, when it was my turn to get up and speak, I said, now I hope I don't make you all angry, but here's the issue. I'm only going to talk about from a business perspective. Now, it's bad that we got AIDS in our community. But now I want to know the test tubes and all the components related to that AIDS program. How come you're not buying them from me? The prisons, how come the people that are in the prison system, if they're my boys, why are you not, the toilet paper and the toothpaste and all of that is not coming from me? So if I got that money and you one of those persons that believe that you should not, that you want to fight for this, if I got some funds and buy into what you're about, then what I can do is at least give you some,
Mm.
you know. But here's something I just started talking about, and it became, this is again another conversation I had with the minister today. In our churches, the minister will ask to hold their hands up on every child that's getting the A's and B's and on the honor roll. I don't have any problems with that.
Right.
Now, this probably is something I shouldn't say, but I'll say it anyway. Most of the kids, most of the business people are C students.
Yeah.
So they hire the A and B
And that's
students,
because they are more creative than,
trying to stay out
yeah,
of right. But
yeah.
everybody should try to get an A. I'm not knocking
That's
that.
true.
But
Yeah.
the issue is when I mentioned it to him, the what I'm asking him in your church from now on, when you pray, don't just pray for the sick and the shut in. Pray for the business people. When do you start?
Well, see, my thing is, and I'm going out, but I've talked about it before, is tithing. Why do you always have to tithe to a church and you're not getting a whole lot in return? Not like if you would if you were tithing to a business, a local business, or a young person that's trying to do something. You know, tithing doesn't always have to be in the church. That's just my thing.
Well, giving don't have to always be in the church, but
But
if
it's the
that's
same
what
as
you,
tithing, all right?
well, I'm not gonna get into that part because
Okay.
I'm not.
All right.
I try to stay away from spiritual, religious things because sometimes I
Religious,
go to
yeah.
church, I need to get my spirit on. But I agree with you
Mm-hmm.
because of another individual told me they didn't see tithing in the book, so I won't fight that part. But if the minister, which is what I asked the minister again today, is what you just asked,
Mm-hmm.
we also need to have a program where you prop up the businesses in the church, because if you do that
Yeah.
and then you're tithing, envision that you are sustaining businesses in the church. We're hiring from our community. All of us is going to this church.
Right.
Then what that does is give us more money to put in the church.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so that's that. You know, so that seems like a fair way for us to start thinking about it. But
And
here's
simple too.
right, it is. But here's another thing that I've asked. We work hard to send our kids to school, to higher school, to higher learning. Now, I've just started asking this.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody asked the school to buy the toilet paper for me. You worked hard to send your kids. So when these fraternities and sororities get together and raise money to send this child, donate X amount of dollars to send this kid to school, and yet you ain't nobody down there. Your kid is going all the way someplace else, spending all the money that you can rake and scrape in another community, just like when they close these 50 schools up.
Mm-hmm.
It burns me up when I hear brothers say, well, they want to go to a better school. Why not fix this school up over here where we live and let people come to our school? Because what happens, that's a money drain. When you when you put your kids on the bus, send them up north, and they buy their hot dog and hamburgers up north, or wherever it is that you're sending them out of your community,
Right.
all the money that you, again, follow the money
From
from
A
A
to
to
Z,
Z.
right.
So you got to recognize, just like with the Dan Ryan, they cut off some egresses so that people would come from the suburbs and out of the city and shoot them straight down.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot them straight downtown from your neighborhood, the White Sox Park
Mm-hmm.
and the Comiskey Park. All the money just passed you by, and you
Nothing.
sitting there thinking, "Wow, this is a bad neighborhood." It's bad because you ain't got no money.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
you need to have that dialogue on how to follow the money
Uh-huh.
from A to Z.
That follow the money, is that the name of, now tell people how they could, uh, what you're looking for.
What we're looking for is because we're concerned about trying to help sustain Black-owned businesses. I think Senator Harris is having a program today out at one of the colleges out in the suburbs. And whenever I see him, I ask the politicians, then I'll get totally into that. Why, why do you all keep going down in Springfield and Congress in Washington, D.C. and talk about minority programs? I understand that Gus Savage had to include the white women into the minority, in terms of get certain set aside. But if you're going to be standing on the floor fighting for issues, how come you can't say Black businesses, Black entities other than minorities? Now, if you want to talk about minorities, let's talk about Black in the minority program,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can stand out there. Well, we can't, and I do agree. And one Indian guy told me that, well, you all want to have a fight about minority program, and it's only 66 of Black or minority Congress people down here in Washington. So, but in the meantime, we still could stand up and talk about us. And now, if you want me to vote with you, let's trade.
Mm.
And this is so I get in a big debate with politicians, some of the politicians, about when I suggest to them, let's talk about black institutions, black businesses. Now, if you get into a conversation where people are talking about, well, black is not a race, Negro is not a race, et cetera, et cetera. Now you got to go through some other changes. But what I tell them, while we're fighting for whatever it is we're going to eventually be called, let's watch the money and make sure I get some or you get some. And I don't mean Obi, but let's make sure we get this money together. Yesterday, I came out of the parking lot and I met this brother. I won't call his name because I know you know him. He teaches young men all kinds of positive things. He's been out here a long time. He gets all kinds of accolades throughout the whole community. And I was kind of letting him know that even though you're teaching the boys about dress codes and all those kind of things, he's also got a program where he's trying to, the girl that got killed here, he's going to have a rally for them. So what I mentioned to him, I said, one of our problems now is our kids don't have no resources. So all these things are going to continue to go on. So he kind of disagreed with me to a point.
How could he?
Well,
Okay.
I won't just say flat out disagreed. He agreed, but he said he was staying in his lane, so I was okay with that. A brother walked up, and this has become one of my pet peeves, so I want to get this out there. Another brother came up and recognized him, and they shook hands, and he passed out his leaflet on what he was trying to do. And then I said, well, however, we still got to have resources. So I'm adding to the conversation with my part as he's adding to his part. So I had to reach over and shake the brother's hand. The part that I have a problem with is I was in another meeting where Omar, the construction industry, had a group of brothers to come out, and one of them is so-called Black Filthy Rich, was standing there talking to the European. And he was talking to me, and when the European walked up, now I'm tying these two together.
Okay.
When he walked up to him, he walked away from me. And what I said now, after they left, I said, I want to talk to you when you get through talking to this European. So I walked up to him and I said, now I'm in an industry where if I'd have been talking to you and another person walked up, I'd have introduced you. Because you don't know where the opportunities that might be for me too. Yeah. So don't beat me up now, because they were younger than me, so I didn't want to beat me up, but I'm chastising you. So I did the same thing with this guy. Yesterday, come to find out, this guy works in an institution at the VA hospital that benefits my company.
Wow.
Didn't introduce me?
Yeah, somebody said that we are gone from 6 degrees of separation to 1. But we don't know it. We don't even realize it.
But we got this. But see, this again is when I say that it's my fault if you don't know. So I have to teach you.
That's good.
Right. My minister told me, they tell me, and this is something else. All my friends tell me, Obi, I do not like the way you tell me about what it is you think we should be doing, or things of your opinion about what you are about. And I say, well, I tell you what, there's a gorilla getting ready to eat you down the street if you walk down that block. And I said real boisterous. Now, what you gonna do? You're gonna go ahead down there and let that gorilla eat you, or that lion eat you, or that bear eat you because you don't like the way I said. If you got a problem with my message,
that's what's going on now, right?
Right. If you got a problem with my message, okay. But if my message is cool and you telling me, now I've been told this by my ministers and everybody else, but what I finally realized, I'm in my lane. So what I do, everybody that tells me they don't like the way I make the presentation, eventually it gets out there because they say, do you know that Obi person that's always talking about following? Well, he's this. And then they say, well, yeah, but his message is cool.
We don't hear that a lot. We don't hear that very often at all, especially when they, people that look like us.
Right,
always,
right. So I get that a lot. Right. But so my message is follow the money from A to Z, and that relates to everything that we touch has more than one component.
Now tell us directly how to support you and what you're about, what you're doing.
How I need support is, and not just me, but since you asked me that question, I'm trying to get donations where I will give you a mug anywhere from $10 to $15 to $1,000.
I just had I'm gonna let you finish, but I just had a vision of, I supported a black business all over the neighborhood.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? It's
Beautiful, beautiful,
beautiful.
beautiful. That's a
Yes.
good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to add to that is if it's not my company, I want you to send
Somebody.
something to my company, which is Gero Medical Equipment and Supply. We're at 4500 West Chicago Avenue, 60651. So send a donation and we will send you some kind of memorandum some kind of item that relates to you donated to a black business. Take your children and give them $25 and have them send $5 or $10 to a black business so that they will start getting in the habit of supporting their own.
Right. Good point.
But in the meantime, not only when you support me, what we plan on doing with this fund is also helping other companies because I have several friends of mine. One in particular sells pop to jewels, soda, however you refer to that. Uh, don't have the kind of resources to grow big as he should grow.
Mm-hmm.
Did I mention that I was in a meeting at Faircon after the Million Man March?
No.
Okay, I went to a meeting after the Million Man March I guess it was Mars Marion. Yes, that's what they call it, over on Stony Island.
Mm-hmm.
And they was talking about boycotting Black Friday. So when they said that they were going to boycott Black Friday, then that might have some effect on Macy's. So I stood up and I asked a question. I said, if you boycott Macy's and they lay off all the black people, where are they going to work? Can they come work for me? So then they mentioned another situation where this brother had a clothing store and he was getting other brothers, designers, to give him the clothes on consignment. And what happened is Macy's came along, paid him up front. This is the conversation, so I don't, so this might be gossip or not, but I was there making this comment. So then they said Macy's came along and gave the brothers their money up front, or sisters gave the money up front, and also undersold the brother, and he went out of business. I stood up again. I said that wasn't the problem. The problem was that he didn't have enough money to become a Macy's. So what we have to start thinking is, how do we create our entities? And one of the ways to do that is to create the sustained businesses. Sure, it's good to help the startup, but if you keep just keep older businesses growing,
Mm-hmm.
then what we can do also reach back and get the smaller companies and get beyond that point where everybody will start growing.
What do the church leaders, and when you have conversations with the church leaders and you lay it out to them, does anyone ever say, well, here, let me help you, or do they have any suggestions, or do you get positive active feedback?
You get positive feedback from a lot of ministers, but see, my contention is that the leaders in the community is not the ministers. The leaders in the community are the business people.
Okay.
And when you're not taking your rightful place as
But
a
we don't
business,
have a lot of them. They don't look like us.
we don't
The
have
business
then
owners.
that's why you got to grow them and you got to have that dialogue. Because if you're not having that dialogue and you're not growing them, like when I tried to start in my church, I'm still working with it. Pardon me, is I'm trying to get all the black businesses in our church to dialogue with each other and to network with each other. Also, in our conference, I'm trying to every 3 months. I like to bring everybody in the conference. When I say everybody, all a delegation from the businesses in each one of those churches in our conference, and we come together and talk about economics in our community. And after that, then we go back and start figuring out how to get our community and our church members to donate to black businesses in our church to help each other grow. Now, I think Reverend Winston's got a pretty good program about dealing with black businesses. I'm not a member of his, so I can't really articulate all the components related to that. But everybody that I've talked to appreciate the school that he has about those kind of things. So I don't know how it translates into investing in them. But I think going back to what we're talking about, that program where you say, I invested in a black-owned business, the mindset, if we can articulate those viewpoints all over our city and our state and our country in terms of just having the pride, I donated to a black-owned business, even if it ain't but $1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what.
So how do they do that?
The way they can start doing that with me is I've got a website which is Follow the Money from A to Z. and they can send their money to a PayPal account with that relationship.
Okay.
And they can send it to me. But if they don't send it to me, because what we're doing, not only helping me now, I'm using the word me, but everybody says I should use the word we, but I'm going to get a piece too.
Yeah.
But
Well,
what,
okay, I'm not gonna go there. Okay.
right, but but in the meantime, what we will do is as we each one of us gets some out of that, then we're going to keep on finding black businesses and helping them
Right.
sustain
Or we can,
themselves.
like they do in a lot of clubs. There's one, let's say, business that will be highlighted each month.
That's the idea.
Hmm.
Well, we're looking at more like 3 months, and the reason why,
Mm.
like one of
Wow.
the phrases that we use a lot in our community is angel investors.
Uh-huh.
Now, when we talk about angel investors, we're using the European analogy, and what we're trying to get done, and when my company was flourishing, even though we're going to get back there, I believe, uh, we were an angel investor, and what that meant, if you had a need, I gave you that money.
Hmm.
I got situations where I've helped other businesses. I haven't got their money back, got my money back. And the reason I didn't have a problem with that is because I know that it takes time to take an invested dollar and grow it to where you can repay it. Now, if I have to get a dollar from you and then hurry up and give it back to you, it's hard to use that money and translate it into a situation where you can go borrow a bigger
Mm.
buck.
Mm.
Now, we had a program that we was trying to do, $1 million fund. Now that got cumbersome because now everybody wants to go through some other organization, and they had money needs, and I didn't feel good about that. But that any way you can find a black, like I've asked sororities and fraternities, you're talking about sending your kid down to $1,200 to go away to school, but that black business is sitting there. If you help that black business grow, then ask them to give $1,200 to that kid. But if you ain't helping the circle, by the time that kid get out to be able to use that money, this is not saying we shouldn't be trying to educate our own. I'm definitely
Right.
not saying that. The only thing I you figure out other ways. We got to start thinking differently than the way we've done it.
Yeah.
And so
Ooh.
that's the case. So if you send the money to me, what we're doing is we're going to get a piece, but we're also going to give other pieces to other business. I.e., the business that I'm sitting here in front of. You all need money.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Hmm. Hmm.
I think a friend of mine.
I love what you're saying. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's why I interrupt me because you know I talk a lot.
I like that. You're on a talk show. You're on a talk show.
But
Yeah.
a friend of mine from Hawaii works with this organization. I think they're downtown. You might know them. It's a black-owned lady. I think a family that's got time with where they host BET and the Grammy Black
Hmm.
programs.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I don't know how large they are, but just like Oprah's size, but Oprah ain't big as CBS and all those
Hmm.
other large
Hmm.
corporations. But we want our large corporations to work with our $500,000 brothers, our $30 million brothers, et cetera, so that we can start growing a community. I really wanted to have where we could block off, and was a monumental thought, where we could block off 47th Street, Lakeshore Drive, California, North Avenue would have been our town. That would have, Chinatown is where it is, Bucktown is where it is,
From 47th
40th
and
Street, 47th Street,
to
Lakeshore Drive, California to North Avenue should have been a black-owned town.
California North. Okay. That's a nice little area.
That's but that was my dream.
Okay.
That's what the urban
You just made
planning.
me think about the old school 63rd Street.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, 63rd would
Yeah.
still be an offshoot of that, but
Got
I'm
it.
just saying that kind of miles radius would have been something
All right.
that the black-owned businesses, when they talk about those businesses back in the day,
Yeah.
I know how we were playing with money. I mean, we was happy and doing that, but not no idea of how to plan an urban
Yeah. Then
community.
our focus got switched. Yeah.
I don't know if it was there yet.
Then, okay. Well, thank you for hanging out with us, the president of Jero, Jero, Mr. Obi Wordlaw. I always have a hard time saying
My
your last
word is
name.
law.
Wordlaw.
Right. That's
Okay.
very easy.
I just got Mr. Obi.
No, you just say open.
I do, and I appreciate that.
Right.
So follow the money from A to Z.com. Is that it?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And then if they wanted to donate and get one of the items that you have, it would be follow the money at
Follow the money from A to Z.
from A to Z.
At Jerome. Right. Just follow the money from A to Z. That's our domain
They'll
name.
find you.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll find me.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube too. It's Follow the Money from A to Z. We got a
Yeah.
presentation there as well.
Okay. Thank you
Right.
so much for hanging
Thank
out
you
with
for
us.
letting me be
I
here.
did want to close out with something, not directed at us or about this particular topic. And I'm looking at what's going on with politics. I'm really trying my best to look at it because it's serious. We have to at this point. We've, managed to keep it in our lives. So, and it's such a big part of how we live. I would just like everybody to stop, slow down a little bit, and especially with the early voting thing. Because I'm hearing people are regretting that they early voted and now they're like, I voted for the wrong person. So let's stop because it's really serious. Stop, and take a look at what we're doing and make sure that we make the right decisions. And if you can't come down to the right decision, we need to talk about that.
Without
Seriously.
a doubt.
Yeah.
That takes me back to follow the money from A to Z because
Mhm.
what happens is that the people with them funds can also direct where you vote.
Yeah. So we really need to be careful with this. Really, and we'll talk about it more another time. Thank you so much for hanging out. The president of Jero, Mr. Obi Word Law. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for hanging out. We'll see you guys again soon sometime.
So I can rock you all night, baby.